Hi, it's Thomas. Welcome back to Business Strategy. Today we'll be covering the topic of value chain analysis. To begin, let's look at two key definitions regarding value chain analysis. First, the value chain. Value chain is the internal activities of a firm to transform inputs into outputs. And in the next slide, we'll see in detail what are the components, what are the activities of the value chain. And value chain analysis is identify primary and support activities, which add value and analyze activities to reduce costs or increase differentiation. After we review the components of the value chain, then we'll look more closely at value chain analysis from two perspectives: a low-cost strategy perspective and a differentiation strategy perspective. Later in the course, when we get into strategy formulation, we'll learn about the concept of the generic strategies, and two of those are low cost and differentiation, and so those concepts are important to us in analyzing the value chain. Here are our components of the value chain. Raw materials are extracted and then transported to the location where they're converted into intermediate goods. Those items are transported to where they're converted into a final product through manufacturing. That final product is transported to the location of sale, and after sale there is the possibility of after-sales service. And we can see these five components of the value chain. All of them involve transportation and logistics. Depending on the entity, the value chain might be less involved than this. A merchandiser isn't involved in manufacturing. They simply purchase a finished good and resell it. A service provider isn't involved in any goods, so their value chain is different. But this gives a good idea, and perhaps when we're thinking about what is typically the most complex business model, a manufacturer, this slide displays the components of a manufacturer's value chain. So let's move into value chain analysis from the low-cost strategy perspective. The steps in the low-cost value chain analysis are identify the activities. What are the key activities that the business is involved in? Then identify the cost drivers. What drives cost? What drives spending money? It's important to know what those activities are so that we can measure those activities and decide what are we getting for what we're spending. And in the final step, we're going to do some additional analysis with that information. In the third step, we identify links and relationships to understand how the individual components of the value chain work together, creating additional value, or in some cases creating unnecessary costs. And then finally, we identify opportunities to reduce costs. Through this analysis, we identify what we're doing, what it costs us, and we determine if there's a way to either reduce the cost or possibly eliminate the activity altogether. From the differentiation strategy perspective, our value chain analysis begins with identifying value-added activities. What are we doing that allows us to operate effectively as a differentiator? To differentiate, you need to do something that, as the word implies, is different, that somebody else isn't doing. So we want to identify what those activities are, and specifically what are the activities we're doing that the customer sees as adding value, that the customer sees as worth paying a higher price for. Then we evaluate differentiation strategies. We have several options. One is additional product features or quality, customized, special product features. Another is customer service, focusing not just on the quality of the product, but on the entire customer experience, and an important part of that is a good customer service experience. Another option is customization, making our product not mass producing an item, but perhaps making products that are individually customized to the needs and requests and desires of our customer. And then finally, another option is complementary products, add-ons that will create another opportunity for us to add value and to succeed with our differentiation strategy. Our third and final step is we structure all of our activities to create our competitive advantage from a differentiation strategy perspective. Put everything together so that we can successfully operate in a differentiation model, offering a product that has higher value, has something special that the customer is willing to pay more money for and sees as more valuable than the products our competitors are offering. And we'll conclude with the discussion of the concept of vertical integration. When we look at the value chain, we start with raw materials, we end with after-sales service, and there are two possibilities in that structure. One is individual organizations perform each of the individual chains of the value chain. Another option is one entity performs more than one chain of the value chain. The idea of integration, vertical integration, is doing more than one activity in the chain. And forward integration is a move forward in the chain. So, for example, a raw materials provider might move forward to become the organization that also creates the intermediate good, could move forward to also complete manufacturing. Or a manufacturer could move forward to also sell the product directly to the end customer. Those are examples of forward integration. And we saw that when we looked at the 5 forces analysis, one of the factors we need to consider in evaluating our suppliers is what is their potential for pursuing forward integration and moving into becoming a competitor of ours by moving into our field of operation. Backward integration refers to someone or an entity at the far end, the final end of the value chain, moving backwards to operate at an earlier stage or an earlier chain of the value chain. So, for example, someone selling a product to the end buyer, instead of purchasing from the manufacturer, could move backward in the value chain and become the manufacturer. That's an example of backward integration. So vertical integration, the general concept, is doing more than one component of the value chain, and these ideas of forward and backward integration are moving from one position in the value chain to do more activities to pursue the concept of vertical integration in the value chain. This concludes value chain analysis. I look forward to seeing you in class for our case study analysis and application of both the SWOT analysis and then within SWOT analysis, this particular component of analyzing strengths and weaknesses, value chain analysis.